Hey, it's 4:03 in the morning. I'm Kyle.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Mike.
And tonight on the Sleepy Nerd podcast, we find out that when the seal wrote "Kiss from a Rose" for Mike, he wanted to call it "Handjob from a Cactus."
1, 2, 3, listen.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the 10th episode of Sleepy Nerds podcast.
Woo!
Hey.
We made it.
If a party noise sound could be inserted right here.
Just like a really sad single party favorite noisemaker.
Wait, I'll leave a space for it. Vanessa, put just like a here. Wait. All right, that was enough time. Well, congratulations to all of us. I'm very proud of our 10th episode anniversary.
Yay.
What was the over-under that you guys
I'm
gave
just
us on
making it to
making?
10?
Yeah.
I mean, we still have to actually release all 10 of them.
Yeah.
So.
Shut up.
Who did we think was going to quit first? That'll be the first social media poll.
I definitely thought.
Who sounded like they were the most over it?
That's a totally different question.
Yeah.
I definitely thought Kyle was not going to have the time to record any episodes ever. I felt like Mike had a likelihood of being like, I don't know, this is a stupid idea.
Yeah, I definitely thought Mike was going to die before we got here.
I did
Thanks,
think it was possible
guys.
he was going to die in surgery and we'd have to replace him.
Oh, hey, Mike's here.
Hey, thanks. You guys are the best. Yay.
But I was definitely going to stay forever and am going to stay forever, like a cockroach.
Yep.
Is this a bad time to tell you that we voted you off?
Yeah.
Try
Our
and
first social media contest, be the third host of Sleepy Nerds podcast.
start my own
Welcome
podcast.
to Erin's 10th and final episode.
Surprise!
Well, better way to say
Hate
goodbye to
you.
you than to talk about Disney.
Yeah.
Segues are hard, guys. I'm sorry.
I mean, when I get booted off the podcast, I am going to spend all my free time rewatching Disney movies from childhood. So
Don't you do that now.
I mean, you will spend all your remaining time getting
don't have the time
forcibly
to recording
removed
this.
from Small World.
yeah, well, again, that already happens. But
Oh my god. That was you in the news.
they're my babies.
So I think tonight we could talk about some maybe shared Disney experiences in the parks. We're all from Florida, so I think that's just kind of like Mike's not. He's a filthy northerner.
We all live in
Hey,
Florida.
hey. You
So
watch
we have our share of Disney World stories.
You're from New York. Your version of
Yeah.
Disney is being stabbed in the subway.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then you
by a giant mouse. Yeah.
by someone dressed as Mickey Mouse.
and
Yeah.
you hallucinate
Hold on, I'm sorry.
people singing the Small World song as you black out.
By someone dressed as Mackie Mouse.
I was gonna say Mackie Morse.
Because
Yeah.
they don't have the rights to Mickey Mouse.
So,
So what's your fondest memory of that happening, Mike?
as the most recent Florida transplant, tell us some Disney experiences from your side.
All right. Well, I went to when I was still living in New York. We came down to Florida on vacation, and we went to Disney then. But I don't remember too much of it. My first memory that where I can remember the majority of the whole trip was shortly after we moved here. Is when they still had Star Wars weekends going on. So we went. Me, my brother, my parents, and we brought my grandmother. And so we stayed over for the weekend, and we went to Star Wars weekends at, I think it was MGM still at that time.
Yeah.
We waited all day. We sat along the parade route. We watched all the guys in costumes walk by. We went on the Star Tours ride. It was awesome. I bought an Indiana Jones fedora. Still have it. It is awesome. And then
You still wear it when you write hateful things about women on the internet?
shut up.
What else are you gonna wear?
Just that, nothing else.
Fingerless gloves. And that.
That's
anyway.
somehow worse.
Anyway, then the next day, we went to Epcot for the first time. We brought my grandmother there. We went all around the countries. She was really into Chinese culture and the Asian culture. So we went to we brought her through like the China section and the Japan section, and she just had a ball looking at all of the artwork and like all the little knickknacks and stuff like that. So that was one of the highlights of my Disney experiences. So
To leap off of that, I have many good memories of going to the Japan section of Epcot before my sister moved to Japan.
Yeah.
And again, before like manga and anime really took off and you could get those things, like that was like, let's go to Disney and there we can get Pocky or like rice
at
candy.
an incredibly
for
marked
like
up price.
$12 a box.
Which, okay, so my fiance and I went to Epcot recently. And we were in that store where they sell like the popular culture stuff in Japan, like the Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon stuff that. And I saw this Legend of Zelda backpack in there. And I'm like, this is an awesome backpack. I really want it. They had it for $60 there. On the tram ride from the park back to the car, I went on Amazon and bought it for half price.
Nice.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And it was delivered to my home by the time we got back from the park.
Both
I'm like,
globalization
perfect.
and the internet have ruined Epcot's.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think there was a period when they were first figuring out like what they were going to sell at Epcot, and they're like, oh, like manga and anime are popular, just get whatever. Imagine like some little kid like, ooh, La Blue Girl. And it's like all like the hentai they accidentally
I don't
stocked.
feel like
God.
they actually sold that much like manga and
They
stuff.
really don't. It's just more like
it's more like toys and like
clothing.
little,
There's some
there's
books-
like kimonos.
Well, now it's just like
and,
Pokemon.
yeah, and like Pokemon, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Gundam, like a whole bunch of like anime stuff.
Yeah.
And for some reason, you can buy pearls in there for like right out of the oyster.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't know. It's so weird.
Also, like, I haven't been to Epcot in a while, but like, this might be. Yeah, I'll say this, and then you guys can tell me if it's xenophobic or not. I
Yes.
feel like
Probably.
you start if you're like at the entrance. Basically, if you look at the map from left to right, but like if you're looking at the entrance and you go left because it's laid out like a big circle, like a big ring, and you go around it. If you start on the left, which is what we always did, and stop at Japan, you're not really missing anything. I always felt like all the countries after that,
Wait.
weren't
that's-
You
rides.
don't go to Canada?
There weren't like any rides. There, like the
Canada's-
restaurants were like, eh.
If you go to the
Is
left,
that the other way? She was
Canada's
saying, yeah.
after Japan. No, I mean there's a
Yeah.
couple things in between, but
It was
there's
like,
not much.
Like what did we really go to? Like there's a ride in Norway. There's a
which
ride
they
in.
changed to Frozen.
Frozen.
Yeah, I haven't been there since they've changed it to
That's
Frozen.
bullshit, by the way.
There's a ride in Mexico.
Right.
And then there was like the big Japan station, and there's like good food places along that way too.
Yeah.
But it was like after that, it's like there's like Canada, there's like France where they had I think
Yeah.
a fancy restaurant, which as a kid you're like, who cares?
America and then London, I think.
Yeah.
They did expand the Italy section from the first time I went to the most recent time I went, which is pretty cool because I'm Italian. And you get to see like they have that one store where they do like where they make like handmade masquerade masks.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
cool.
It's
I never
really
went there
neat.
because I
Yeah.
always stopped after Japan. And it was right around where the ferry is, too. That'll take
Yeah.
you, like, directly back across. So you go back there and just ride Spaceship Earth, like, 27 times.
I remember going back to Norway. The first time we went to Epcot and we went on the Norway ride, and at the end of it, you go into this like little movie theater, and they were playing a movie about like the oil industry, and like we all sat down like, is this part of the ride? Like, is it rude to leave?
That's kind of weird considering that they also have a ride at Epcot that focuses on like the land and like
Like conservation.
yeah, conservation, and then you have in Norway where they're just drilling oil out of the earth, bleeding it dry.
They're changing that Bill Nye, Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, I
Right,
think
right.
they've shut it down already.
Have they?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's going to be revamped.
Yeah. Epcot's gotten rid of a lot of good things. They used to
I think
have
they updated Spaceship Earth.
fucking
as well.
Captain EO there.
What is that?
Captain EO's the Michael Jackson movie.
Oh, we've talked about
That's
this
before I
It's
was
in the
there.
entire. It's in that entire center where they have like all the different senses
And like nothing now.
Yeah,
They used to have Figment the Dragon there.
They used to have No, they still have Figment. They took
Do
it away
they?
and they brought it back. Yeah,
Yeah, Figment.
Figment's
Figment's
ride is-
a nightmare.
Where
it's
is-
like Figment's journey into imagination.
Yeah, I
think.
hate that
Is-
goddamn thing.
Is that Epcot? Figment? I don't
Yeah.
think. Is
Figment's
it?
Epcot.
It's in that whole center. There's a big center, and
Oh.
there's some ride attached. There's a revolving restaurant attached, and there's like all these little stations where it's like like listen to this and see if you can pick out the different sounds,
I
or
have
like
no idea
oh,
what
touch
you're
There's
this
talking
tons of
about.
and
things
see if
that
you
are
can-
never open.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a bunch of interactive stuff you can go to. There was also, I don't think it's still there. Do you remember that ride that was like, it was, I feel like it was just like sitting in a theater and maybe it was 3D or something. And it was just like, it was like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, it's Honey,
but
I Shrunk the
not.
Audience.
Was it? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was in the same theater that Captain EO used to be in, and they keep removing shit. And now they have some dumbass like Pixar like short films. Who gives a fuck about that?
Yeah, bring back Honey, I Shrunk the Audience / whatever Captain EO is. I feel like Kyle's binging it right now to show us a picture of Captain EO. So let's move on. Before
Yeah,
he
let's.
gets there.
Do you want to go with one of yours, Erin? Your
Yeah,
Disney
sure.
experiences?
To jump parks, the at Magic Kingdom, I was big in roller coasters as a kid. I always say like my sister really liked rides that spun around, but hated rides that like had a big drop,
Yeah.
and Linda, who was always on family vacations with us, really liked rides that dropped, but didn't like rides that spin. So I got dragged on both with both of them. So I just liked all roller coasters. So I remember being like 5 or 6 and like Linda being like, let's go on Splash Mountain. And we like waited, and it's like a 2.5-3 hour line to like get on Splash Mountain in the Florida summer. And then we got to the front, and I was like just below the height
Man.
requirement. So they like wouldn't let me on. And they gave me this little like Disney dollar thing and like a little pass that was like, oh, well, when you're big enough, you can like cut to the front of the line. And I had that Disney dollar in my wallet for like 10 years.
They don't do that anymore, do they?
I have
Disney
no idea.
dollars.
I doubt it.
I have never seen
Oh, I don't
that.
think so. It was, I wish I still had it. It was just like this pink and purple.
Now that
like-
they have fast passes, they don't really need to. But
yeah. Ugh, that's an entire other rant. I feel like fast passes very quickly went from being like super cool and great to like they're just too much
no,
now.
they're still great.
There's that
But you-
fucking
it's like you
minecart
can-
ride.
The Seven
That-
Dwarfs
the
one,
fa- yeah, the
still
fast
haven't
pass
gone
ride.
around.
My other story is about that. Like, here's the problem with fast passes. You can like get them before you're there now.
Yeah, you can.
You book them 6 months in advance.
Yeah.
I know. So like my sister and I are preparing to go to Disney 4 months in advance, and everything is already booked up. We can't get a fast pass. That's not okay.
But that's strange because it's like that for some parks, but like not for others. Because we went to Hollywood Studios recently, and we planned fast passes the week before we went.
Yeah.
We got to the park, went right to the Rock and Roller Coaster, and just walked right on because of the fast pass.
Yeah.
But it's very strange. Like I think they book up, but they also refresh frequently
Maybe.
because I took my fiance to Magic Kingdom for her birthday, and I was planning it like 2 months out, and I tried to get a reservation at Be Our Guest, the Beauty and the Beast
Yeah, that was the
restaurant.
other thing we couldn't get.
And that was the thing, like 2 months out, nothing, booked solid.
Yeah.
The week before, I'm like, let me check again. They had a couple that opened up. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
maybe they open them up because like people cancel or whatever.
yeah, I think that's
but-
what it is.
Or they just
so you
save
just
them.
got to keep an eye on
Be
it.
Our Guest is great.
It is. It's
I
awesome.
imagine it is. I'd love
but
to go.
I have something I call restaurant anxiety.
Okay.
I can't eat at restaurants that have like a lot of shit going on everywhere.
Uh-huh.
So they have like a ton of TVs playing and like shit hanging off of the walls.
Rainforest
and
Cafe
music.
must be a nightmare for you.
It is. Planet Hollywood was where it first happened.
That's
Because it
understandable.
was my
That place is a
honeymoon,
fucking
and we got
nightmare.
set. We didn't have reservations, and because who the fuck is reservation for Planet Hollywood?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the one in
There's
downtown
two of them
Disney?
left. Yeah, it was one of the two left. Yeah,
Was this before or after you watched that teenager get like a blowjob in the theater?
before.
Okay.
So
That's from a previous episode.
Continuity.
Yay!
So we got sat right in the front of Planet Hollywood by the stage, and like 3 feet over my head, there was just this giant on fire Jeep
Sure.
prop like hanging, and I'm right next to like an 18-foot tall speaker and a row of TVs, and I didn't eat any of my $38 cheeseburger. But no, Be Our Guest is great. It's really cool. But
Yeah.
we sat in like the Beast room, where it's
did like a super entitled white guy just occasionally come in and knock over your table and scream in your face?
yeah.
God damn it! I want to eat there so bad.
That's every Bennigan's I ever went in. but no, the beer, but like that room's cool.
Yeah.
But there's like it's dark, and then there's like constant lightning and like animal growls. Like,
So they're like, eat quickly before he comes.
like this isn't really like connected to like enjoying my meal.
Kyle, this all sounds
We-
great. I don't know what you're talking about.
When we went, we sat in the gallery, which was like I think the most brightly lit room. But we went for breakfast, so they didn't do like all the characters coming out. And I'm like, well, Close enough. It's breakfast or nothing, like, because this place was fucking impossible to get reservations
That's,
for.
I think, what we ended up doing on that same trip where we couldn't book Be Our Guest. We couldn't, like, get any fast passes to rides we wanted to go on. We ended up booking, like, a breakfast because that was, like, the only meal we could reserve.
It was good breakfast,
outside the park, too. It was like a Disney restaurant, but it was outside the park. We were
Good
like,
breakfast at Be Our
Anyway, I
Guest.
would interject
Yeah,
stories.
had some
because you
great
guys
Mickey
just
Mouse
kept talking,
waffles.
Sorry.
And I had to interject stories, but there was just too much Disney flying back and forth between the two of you.
Stop bitching. It's going to happen. Just go.
Aaron, shut the fuck up.
No.
All right.
So
Kyle, yours? Your turn?
So back to Captain EO.
Oh, fuck.
God. That was not me interrupting. That was me purposefully trying to get away from that.
It was directed by Francis Ford Coppola,
Get the fuck out of
produced
here.
by George Lucas.
Get out. You're full of shit.
No, I'm not. And it was great. It was like a 20-minute long movie, and Michael Jackson plays Captain EO. And there's like all these practical effects, like little monsters. I think one of them's called like Snarfle or some dumb shit like that.
Of course it is. Why
But
wouldn't
then
it be?
he goes to
But
this
Figment's
planet.
dumb.
Yeah, he goes to this planet of these like biotechnological like monster people, and he has to sing them into happiness and joy. And it's the greatest thing ever. And we had fast passes. Me and my wife had fast passes. And one day I really wanted to go just to see Captain EO. So we drove to Epcot, which is like an hour and a half away from us. Went on Captain EO, turned around, and went home.
Wow.
That's the dream.
That is the dream. And they used to sell Captain EO shirts there. They had like a little cart of Captain EO merchandise, and it's like a
One poor
it's
man
like a
pushing that
bright
cart.
white sleeveless shirt with like just a gigantic like rainbow sash in the front. And I'm like, I can pull it off.
Did you?
I
Did you
wasn't able to buy it, but I could have done that.
Buy it and turn it into
I
a
don't know
crop
about
top.
that.
Yeah, it'd been
So,
great.
what is your Disney experience now, Kyle? Other than Captain
Captain
EO.
EO.
Was that it?
No,
Don't
like,
give him another one.
so, no. The
I don't
minecart
think Captain
ride.
EO
I
counts.
don't like doing fast passes because they're a pain in the ass. They've only like worked well one time for me. Because then again, you look at the fast passes, and now they have it where you have to pick 3 things.
Yeah. Well, they.
Did they do away with
They
that?
changed it.
Good, because that was dumb.
Well, they used to. The way it used to work is you pick one you want to do, and then you could pick two from a certain list, like of tiered ones. But they
Yeah.
changed it so the 3 you pick, you can pick anything now, which is
But
better.
it used
Yeah,
to be
it was
where
like
it's
the
like,
tiered
oh,
thing,
it's like,
too.
well, I want to go on like Jungle Cruise at like 1, and then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, the next 2 things are available at 7 and 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm not going to do that.
Well, and
But-
that's how they were even before you could do it online. It would be like, okay, I'm gonna like get into the park when it opens. I'm gonna go like straight over to Space Mountain and get a fast pass. And it was like, okay, well the first one available is 6:30 p.m. And you're
Yeah.
like, it's 8 a.m. How?
Yeah.
Like-
But the minecart ride, like we went 4 times and never went on it.
Yeah.
We just never could. And then finally I went with my wife and then my friend, her husband, and her brother. And me, and then, well, Danny and PJ, that's their names. We're like, we're going to go on this goddamn minecart ride. We stood in line for like an hour and a half. And we got to the front of the line and they shut the ride down because they had thunder in the area. And like, well, you could wait it out. You're feel free to sit here, but we're going to turn the air conditioning off too. And then they had like student tours coming through. So it was us and then 9,000 14-year-olds.
Jesus Christ.
And
That sounds horrible.
after maybe 45 minutes after just waiting, they were like, you know what, we're out of here. So we walked through the entire line backwards to get out, and they opened the ride back up as soon as we got out.
Oh my God.
I don't want to go on that ride just on principle alone now.
I have.
That similarly, again, like, so my sister who lives in Japan was visiting, and this was our one trip to Disney, and we couldn't get any good fast passes. And so, like, all day we were like, well, we'll go on the Seven Dwarfs coaster, which had recently opened. We're like, we'll go on it, we'll go on it, we'll go on it. Like, every time we walked past, the wait time was listed as like over 3 hours. So we're like, well, maybe it'll like go down. Nope, all day, every time we passed.
It's horrible.
And so eventually we were like, okay, it's like 8 o'clock. We just have to like stand in this line. To their credit, they like since it's a new ride, they put a bunch of cool stuff to do in the line.
Yeah.
There are like all these
Yeah,
games
that's the good-
and like
that's the good
interactive
part.
screens.
They've been
yeah.
redoing a lot of the
But
rides that way.
We
Yeah.
waited in line. The fireworks display that we wanted to see started going off as we were in line. So
Oh,
we were like
man.
leaning around trying to like see parts of it under like the rooftop and
Good.
watching it. We did eventually get on it, but like
Was it worth it?
it was cool.
Yeah. So we had something similar happen to us when we went to Be Our Guest. Our reservation was like early in the morning, like maybe a half an hour after the park opened. So we got there, we saw the whole opening ceremony, and we were walked over to Be Our Guest, which is right by the Seven Dwarfs
Yeah.
minecart train. And we're like, well, we got some time to kill before the reservation. Why don't we try to get on the line? It can't be that bad. Walk over to it. 2 hour already. The line had already started wrapping around the whole ride to the entrance for Be Our Guest. So we're like, well, fuck that.
The good
Let's
part
just
about
go wait and
the
go
good
eat.
part about there being a new ride. I mean, relatively new now. It's like what, like 2
It's
years
like
old
it's
now.
almost a year, like year and a half, 2 years
Okay.
now at this point.
Like it makes everything else a lot shorter. It's like I
Yeah.
remember like
Yeah.
Space Mountain used to be like an 80-minute wait. I've the past few times I've been to Disney, we just like walk onto Space
Yeah.
Mountain now.
To like the exact opposite of that. Like I feel like I'll have a whole category of like rides that you went on because there was never a line. Pirates was always like that. It was like the line part is almost entirely indoors, so you're like, at least I'll be in air conditioning. And then there was like almost never like anyone waiting for it because it was just like a whatever kind of ride. Like as opposed to like I feel like Jungle Cruise would be that way, but it always has a really long line. I don't know
well, that's
why.
a classic.
Yeah,
People-
but
but, like-
but then once the Pirates movies came out and they redid it, now it's like another like.
He did it.
Well, yeah,
They need to redo it
took
again.
out
Listen,
added-
Get
after-
that fucking Shanghai Disney.
After-
and I was like, why'd they have to redo it now? There's like an hour line for Pirates, and it's not that sort of gimme of a ride. But we looked at the video of the Shanghai Disney Pirates of the Caribbean, like recently built,
That
and
thing's
it was
fucking cool.
awesome.
Look, after we saw that, I can understand why people don't ride that fucking one here anymore. Like, this is a piece of shit. Give
Well,
me
like,
that
what are your-
one.
What are your guys' favorite rides? Like between all the parks, like so, like Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, Disney. Like, what's your favorite ride?
Well, I mean, I really like the Star Wars ride, Star Tours, just
Yeah.
because I'm a
Yeah,
big
Star Tours is
just
great,
because I'm
yeah.
a big Star Wars fan, especially since they updated it with all the new movie stuff.
Yeah.
I was gonna
But,
say that was
uh,
another one that I was like, I really liked. It was like really old and outdated,
Yeah.
but I still liked like the charm of it.
Yeah.
And now
But,
I'm like, yeah.
I love the Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yeah.
That one is
Sounds
so
fun.
good. There were rumors for a long time that they were going to rebrand it to something else, and I'm so glad
Yeah.
that they're not doing that.
Nickelback.
No,
Yeah.
I think they were talking about Miley Cyrus for a while, and then I think or Hannah Montana, and then she went batshit crazy, and they're like, nope,
Like we're
Stay
gonna
in
turn the
Aerosmith.
cart into a wrecking ball, and
No,
you have to strip before you get on.
At the end of the ride, just everyone gets chlamydia.
Yeah, and then you do salvia. So
Yeah, that's great. That sounds great. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
we just make a new attraction.
Do you know they edited the opening video of that ride now?
which one?
The Rock and Roller Coaster. After 10 years, someone figured out like Steven Tyler's making the shocker hand gesture.
Nah.
Is it really?
Yeah, so they went back and they digitally edited his hand to be doing something else.
Really?
Yeah,
That sounds great.
Uh,
isn't that a waste of resources?
Yes.
I mean, could be
Erin,
redoing the.
Favorite rides?
I feel like Thunder Mountain is just like a classic.
Yeah.
yeah.
And actually, like, I really enjoy Thunder Mountain. After going on the Seven Dwarves Mine Coaster, it was like, oh, that's a really old ride. Because it was like, Seven Dwarves, like, shoots you out super fast, and it's really smooth. And you're like, I didn't think that Thunder Mountain was a really bad, bumpy
Until you went
ride.
on
But,
that.
like, in comparison, yeah.
You
like,
go around like literally like you are pushed in the cart by the employee all the way through.
You're bouncing around, getting
They have a
whiplash.
donkey pulling the cart, but it's not as bad as like an old wooden roller
Hate
coaster.
wooden
They're
roller
terrible.
coasters.
They're terrible. I can't ride them. But what?
Did they tear that thing down yet?
Yeah, I was gonna say Quasi is exactly what I was thinking of.
For everyone who doesn't live in Florida,
Yeah, Busch Gardens.
Quasi-
Well, this is not your episode.
yeah, Quasi was a horrifying wooden roller coaster at a park called Busch Gardens.
Did they tear it down, or is it still
No,
there?
it's just sitting there. Its corpse rotting in the
It's, yeah,
sun,
it's
Is it
closed, but
closed?
it's still
Is it
there.
shut
taking up
down?
valuable real estate. Yeah, it's been shut down since 2007.
Is it really?
Yeah,
They should just set it on fire.
They
That would be
should.
a
I mean-
great
It was-
spectacle.
it was a dual.
I would pay money to go see that.
It was a dual track roller coaster, and after a while they shut down one of the sides of it, so just like one of them
Yeah.
was going. Then they shut down another one. I went to a New Year's Eve celebration there with my wife. And this thing like, man, how great would it be if they just attached all the fireworks to Gwazi
just let it go off.
and just,
in a
yeah, just
blaze.
let the fucking thing go up in flames.
I used to work at Busch Gardens, and hearing people complain about that fucking ride, just be like, I know, it sucks. What do you want? I'm just an employee making a minimum wage. I have no control over the fucking roller coaster.
That really was like I went on it when it was like super new too, and it was like, oh, it's this new, and they're like touting it like, oh, it's a wooden roller coaster.
When? Did you go on it in the 70s?
No, didn't they just like fucking?
I don't know. Why would
No,
anybody
they just-
build a wooden
they
roller
built it-
coaster
they-
recently?
Right, they built it as like it was like a thing that it was a wooden roller coaster, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I see why they stopped building wooden roller
Yeah.
coasters.
Because people were dying.
My dad worked for a steel fabrication company, and what?
Go on.
There's no fucking way. That's the one. That's the one that's a lie,
No.
right?
Really, I joke that my dad killed a guy named Mike in Vietnam, and no one called me on that. But this is the one you call me on.
Yeah.
No.
I feel like I would have known. If
He
your dad
worked for a
in the
steel
industry.
company, and he used to help. They designed the rebar for like theme parks. Like Islands of Adventure, he helped design like all the rebar that went into that.
That's pretty cool.
So to get free passes, we went to Busch Gardens with him one time, and he goes, "All right, so Gwazi, all those little orange X's on the ride." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, that's where bolts are loose and falling out." And there must have been like 5,000 orange X's on the side of the ride. Anyway, I digress. Disney.
rough.
Sorry,
That's
we're getting
rough.
into other theme
That's
parks.
that's the thing.
So my personal favorite rides at Disney. Obviously, Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
It breaks down too much.
It does.
And the problem with it is that it doesn't stop. Like it's constantly in motion. So
Mm-hmm.
when it breaks down, you're stuck in one spot listening to the same thing
Yeah.
over and
It
over.
doesn't really like. I don't think it breaks down. I think people like stand up on it a lot
Yeah.
for some reason.
I don't know.
Well, it's a lot of times Disney always has to stop people from spreading their dead like relatives' ashes on that ride. That happens a lot.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So Haunted Mansion, of course. I love Tower of Terror. Which I guess Tower of Terror is being rebranded to a Guardians of the Galaxy right now.
The
one in
at-
California
at
was.
Disneyland they did.
I
I,
like-
don't know if they're doing that here yet.
I think they're going to though, which is a
Maybe-
massive bummer.
I think
Apparently, Gwazi opened in 1999. Sorry, Bing just got the result for that.
I think once they finish all the construction that's already going on in Hollywood Studios, they might.
Star Wars Land.
Well, because they have
yeah.
Star Wars Land and the Toy Story section that they're expanding. So I think once they finish those two, maybe they'll transform it and that whole section to like the superhero theme stuff. But I don't think that'll happen for a while.
That makes me really sad. I don't want to see Tower of Terror go.
They
I
might
love
not.
like the whole like aesthetic of that ride.
Yeah.
Like I downloaded the music that plays through it, like all the like old
course
school
you did.
music.
I like anything with
And
Reb Serling.
Yeah,
They
he
might
is a sexy bastard.
they might not change it just to keep one of them classic. Because it's just the one here and then the one in California, right? There's no
Yeah.
Tower of Terror at any
Disney
other parks.
has no sense of nostalgia.
You
though.
think? I think
Oh,
that
no.
one is like
Disney loves tearing rides out and
Yep.
putting new stuff there.
Yeah.
Just destroying your childhood. Make some other kid's childhood better.
Norway.
I don't
I'm
know.
bitter. I fucking love that ride.
I don't know. I
don't know why they wouldn't
oil
make that,
drilling
like-
and
And
all.
I don't like Frozen.
Well, I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't make like the Yeti Mountain one at Animal Kingdom, a Frozen one. Like that seems like a
So-
much easier conversion.
So factoid
Yes.
about. By the way, that's an awesome ride too. I love Everest.
I just want to
Yeah.
real quick. I do feel like they'll keep Tower of Terror.
I hope they do.
I hope they do.
I want
Like
them
that's
to.
another one.
Sorry.
It gets rumored that it's going to get like replaced by something. Every
I
few
think the
years,
biggest
so-
rumor around that one is just because they changed the one in California, but I
Yeah.
feel like they might keep it just to have one
Maybe.
of them.
Say your thing,
exist.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go
The
ahead.
Everest Yeti is Disney's biggest animatronic.
It is an awesome ride.
And it worked exactly for like a month. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
If you could look up old videos of like the Yeti when it did work,
Mm-hmm.
it was fucking crazy. It was like really fluid. It would like swipe down at the cart.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I remember going on that ride when the Yeti still worked and it like opened its
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
mouth and roared and it swiped at the cart and like a light would flash
Yeah.
on it. And then we went on again, and it was just like it was like a statue with like
Mm-hmm.
a roar sound effect. I'm like, I could have sworn this thing like used to move.
Yeah, like,
And everyone told me I was crazy. Everyone said Kyle was a psychopath.
Well, we weren't talking about the
Yeah, we
Yeti
weren't
thing,
wrong
but
about
anyway.
that, but also,
Yeah, it was
I-
unrelated to that.
Well,
yeah.
I've been on that ride exactly once
Same.
after, just after it opened. So now I'm like definitely never gonna go on it again.
Yeah.
So I like
could've swore-
Animal Kingdom really has like no draw for me.
No.
I've been to it.
Oh, you mean
couple
Avatar
times as a
Land isn't
kid.
dragging you in?
Yeah,
That's interesting. I'd like to go on that,
The
but-
Bugs Life ride or like show that's inside the tree is fun,
I
and
just
the
remember that
Mount Everest
thing.
ride is fun, but always had a long line. And that's all I can tell you about Animal Kingdom.
I just remember
couple
Bugs
others,
Life
but-
scaring the shit out of my mom.
yeah.
Because at the very end, you're like, oh, please let our smaller guests leave first.
Mm.
And then you'd be silent and hear people screaming because they had bumps
Oh
under
yeah,
the seat.
yeah.
And
Made
it'd
it
go,
feel like
excuse me, and there's like bugs like moving under your like ass and everything that like the little
Yeah.
things whipping your
Yeah.
feet. That scared the hell out of my mom.
yeah.
All right, it's great. I
That's
like that
pretty
then.
cool. I like the things like that, the interactive ones. Like I love
Yeah,
the
there's,
Monster
like-
Inc. laughed floor because they'll
Yeah.
like call people out in the crowd.
You know, it's a newer one that I like is the oh shoot, what's it called? It's like Philharmonic. Is
Oh,
that what
the
it is? At
Mickey's
Magic
Philharmagic?
Kingdom. Yeah,
think that's
Philharmagic.
what it
That's
is.
it. It's one of those where it's like a theater and a 3D show, but they also they like pump sense into the
Yeah, it's
theater
the
during the Be Our
Philharmagic.
Guest, and they like spray water mist at you
Yeah.
or whatever, and That's a fun ride.
You know, it's great and just like that. The Muppet Vision 3D.
Yeah.
I love Muppet
I fucking
Vision 3D.
love Muppet Vision 3D.
That's a good one. I feel like MGM now. Hollywood Studios. It's been Hollywood
It's
Studios for
MGM.
like 10 years, and
Yeah.
I'm still like
It's
MGM,
MGM.
the real name of that
thing.
park. Anyway, has like a lot of attractions there that I really like, but I feel like in general are not very much liked. Like I love the Great Movie Ride. Isn't that closing down?
Yep, already
That
closed.
shit's gone.
Already closed.
Yep.
Good
I
riddance.
love
hate that ride.
the Muppet
boring.
Ride. I love Tower of Terror. I'll get into this later. The animation studio tour used to be really cool.
Yeah.
Used to.
So
Remind me to come back to that.
when
Is really quick. Is that fucking Drew Carey thing still at Hollywood Studios?
No.
Oh, possible.
I don't think so.
No.
Well, what was it called?
Well,
It was like the sound. It was like the. It was like a
it
detective
also
story.
used to be.
I don't
Yeah,
think so.
it used to just be a detective story. Then they replaced it with like a Drew Carey story. It was another sense thing. It was like you're in a theater and then like the
All the
lights
lights
went
go
out.
off,
Yeah, and
yeah.
you have headphones on and
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
that's gone.
yeah. I don't,
You know, isn't there anymore that fucking Bill Cosby statue?
there's a Bill
Did they
Cosby
take it out?
statue?
Yeah, that thing's gone. I have a picture with it.
Where was
That's
that?
pretty funny.
Right outside
Where they
that
have the
area that had all the
heads.
statues of famous people that like Lucille Ball and like
Oh yeah.
yeah. I got a picture of that Bill Cosby statue.
I
That's
remember that
before.
Bill Cosby statue. Maybe my parents didn't take me to it because they knew. They were like, you know,
Allegedly.
Oh man, someone
Allegedly.
doesn't remember something revolving around Bill Cosby.
Anyway,
Anyway, no. When the most recent time we went to Hollywood Studios, MGM, whatever you want to call it, we went. It was like the week before they were closing the Great Movie Ride, and we went on it. And my fiance had never been on it before, and we got this like little old lady, like being the tour guide. She had hearing aids in, and she was giving the tour.
did she
and
like
she's
lose her
like-
shit when the alien popped
No,
out?
no, no, but she
Did
was-
she die of a heart attack in the alien section?
she was like, she was just like so soft spoken and like monotone and like, well, this isn't exciting. It's like my fiance was like, this is boring. I'm like, yeah, usually if you have a more energetic tour guide, it's a little bit better.
I was like,
but
when
like
she
this
got
woman is like,
kidnapped,
yeah.
did she like actually think she was getting kidnapped?
probably this woman is like we got past the Casablanca part and she's like, oh bogey. I'm like, oh, you were
I said, did she like lose her shit at the James Cagney part?
she was probably like an adult when fucking Casablanca already came out. Like, she
Like,
was,
I remember college.
yeah. It was just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like the first time I ever went on the ride, we had
That
like
is
this really,
a ride that's dependent on
yeah,
how
we had
you
like this
go to
really
that.
energetic young guy. I'm like, this is cool. Like,
Yeah,
and then you fucking,
that's a fun ride.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what a way to experience
I like
the Great Movie Ride for the first and last time. It's like, oh,
Well,
thanks.
they're putting a Mickey Mouse ride in there now, which
Are they?
like yeah, it's based after the new Mickey Mouse cartoons that are out.
Oh,
Like the
right.
really like demented.
Is that the
Good.
Club Mouse or whatever? I don't
No,
know,
that's like
fucking-
the new Mickey Mouse cartoon. Like it's super fucking demented looking. Like Goofy has like yellow eyes and he looks all
Ugh.
methed out. It's great. I love it.
Gross.
It's really good.
Anyway, did you
They
give
brought
one
back
of,
Clarabelle Cow. What?
Did you give Did you give one of your experiences? Was it the minecart ride? Was that it?
We're bouncing around a lot. Do you have another
Yeah,
one?
I have like a lot of shitty experiences.
Sure, go for it.
Well, no, they're super fun. The same time that I went with all my friends, my wife and my friends, we got up to Disney. It was a beautiful, cloudless day. We parked our car, got out of the car, walked where the tram was. It started raining terribly, like hurricane style, for 5 minutes, and we got soaked.
That's Florida for you.
And then it stopped. And for some reason, like, we weren't able to get dry the entire rest of the day. Like, 9 hours later, we were still, like, just soaking wet and miserable.
Good.
And I think we were like, this is really fun. And I remember, like, right before we decided to leave,
Fun. Isn't this
we
fun?
were at Epcot. And we were at the, like, the character meet and greet room. Or that big building that's, like, always empty.
yeah.
And I just remember, like, sitting in the hallway. And I'm like, guys, this has been like a great experience. Can we please go the fuck home now? Like, it was fun, but like I said, spent the entire like being damp at Disney the entire day
It's the worst.
sucks.
That's why I hate going on water rides.
I was gonna say that's why you have to time the water rides just right because
Yeah.
like just having wet socks walking around Disney
Yeah.
for an entire day is the worst.
Or like if you go on Splash Mountain, you sit on a wet seat and you have a wet
no.
butt.
I
the
was
whole-
gonna say wet socks are wet like
I think I was
pants.
like, I was a genius that day too, and I wore like jeans and a button-up shirt for some reason to Disney.
Yeah, as one
And,
does.
like, yeah.
I try to avoid Splash Mountain like the plague whenever we go.
Yeah.
Just because
I like
I
it,
know
but it's a mid-afternoon
yeah,
ride.
because I just know if I get wet, I'm gonna be wet for the rest of the day, and I'm gonna be miserable.
Isn't it weird that Splash Mountain's still there?
Kind of.
Do you think like
With
kids
the,
like point to the characters like where are they from,
Yeah.
mom and dad?
What
like,
is that?
Oh yeah, Brer Rabbit.
Where is he? Can I watch that
favorite.
movie?
No,
Not legally.
I enjoy that one.
Sorry, it was good.
Similarly to your like horrible rain story, but with a different outcome, when Hurricane Andrew hit 1992, I think 92 or 93. So I was very young. We like right before we're like going to Disney and like staying at the Dolphin there, like very nice hotel there, and then Hurricane Andrew came, so we just like extended our stay for like an entire week.
We'll
And
just
like
stay
as a
here.
kid, that was amazing. We like stayed there until we could no longer afford to stay there.
Did you guys do grad night when you were in high school?
No,
Yes, I have
fuck
another
that
terrible
shit.
story
Oh
about
my
that.
god! All right.
I'm not. I
Okay.
hated high school. I was
Do you want
not
your
dealing with
terrible
it.
story or my terrible story?
I'll do
first?
mine and you do yours.
I want to
Okay.
interject something really quick.
Okay.
Go for it.
We just got hit by Hurricane Irma. You know shit is bad when Disney shuts down. Disney is open 365 days a year.
Yep.
You know shit is out of control when they start when they shut down and start taking shit apart. Like they were taking parts of Cinderella's castle off.
Yeah, they took the spires off.
They
yeah.
took that shit down. That is insane.
That's
Sorry,
ridiculous.
Yeah.
had to
Right.
get that out because
That's
that is
good.
bad.
That's a
That
good
is
aside.
mind-boggling.
That really is. It is just like, oh my god, Disney's closing. Like,
Yeah,
is
you
it
know,
the apocalypse?
You know shit is serious when a park that never closes closes. It's like,
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
Grad night.
Grad night. Sorry, I had like a horrible joke. I'm like, did they close on September 11th?
I don't think
not.
so. Probably not.
You don't think so?
I don't know why they
No.
would.
Do you think they were like paused or like?
Well,
let's
because
see.
at that point,
It was
the
already-
park was
yeah,
already
mid-morning,
open.
yeah.
For them
Yeah.
to try to get everybody out in a timely and safe fashion, there's no fucking way.
Yeah.
I mean, we could bing it, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
confident
bing
that
that.
there's no way that they did.
I would be very surprised
they
if they
did close one time, I think, in like the 70s too. There was like a hippie riot there.
Really?
Yeah.
Riot.
Hippie riot was the name of my
Band.
my ska
band.
reggae German industrial solo acoustic project.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Grad night.
So grad night, when I was in high school, I went with a group of like 15 people. I'll let you guess who the 15th wheel was on that one. Everyone.
Was it
yeah.
Steve?
Who the fuck?
I don't know.
The 15th wheel.
Yeah, you know that guy.
That guy who was sitting next to you while you were making out with whoever was your girlfriend at the time.
No, that wasn't me at the time. I was the only person not making out in Small World. Small World, those carts hold exactly like 14 people. So I rode in a boat by myself behind all my friends and
Good.
spent the entire ride screaming the lyrics of Small World at them. And
And thus was born the legend of Kyle the Cock Block.
yeah. The cart behind me was our rival high school. And one of the kids from the rival high school stood up on the boat, jumped from the boat to the platform where all the animatronics are.
Oh god.
His foot landed, and the second it landed, a door swung open. A Disney employee grabbed him by the collar, pulled him
Holy
in,
shit.
and the door closed.
I'm sure they're ready for that shit on grad night.
No one saw it except me. And I feel like if you go back to Small World now and you're like going on the boat and you like look up and there's just like some kid's face like stitched onto one of the Norwegians.
I was just gonna say, was he ever seen again?
No. Same
You see one of the exit doors like banging off its hinges, like, let me out!
same high school during grad night. They had a foam party for some reason
At Disney?
at Disney. They had a
fucking
foam
weird.
party, and one of the kids from the high school pushed the Mickey Mouse actor over
Oh,
railing
man.
and into the lake there.
Oh
And
my
that high school was
God.
banned for 8 years.
Holy
Good.
shit, that's
What a shithead.
insane. That's dangerous because in those suits, if you go in water, you could
really,
die. You
it's
could
like
drown. 'cause
The
those
head
things,
just fills up with water.
those fucking things are heavy. When I worked at Toys R Us, I had to dress up as Jeffrey the Giraffe one time.
Why have we not heard
Wait.
this story before?
Hold on. That fucking thing weighed a ton. Can you imagine what that Mickey
I
Mouse
need
costume
pictures.
weighs? There aren't any.
I need
Vanessa.
detailed description.
There
I
are
need
none.
pictures.
There are none. Trust me.
Which Toy Story? Which one did he work at?
I used to work at the Express store at International Mall.
All right.
And then I transferred to another store once they closed down.
I have some deep detective work to do.
Good luck.
I'm gonna find this picture.
It must exist.
How will you
somewhere.
know it's me? You can't tell.
I'll
By
know
your
it's you.
sneakers.
Anyway.
Because you'll be the
Anyway.
one going, I'm
Okay.
selling toys here.
That classic Jeffrey voice.
Hey, kid, you want a remote control car? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Shitty grad night stories. Go on.
Guess what? Kyle was right about something.
What?
Hey.
9/11, they closed the park and
Really?
they closed all the attractions and all the shops and like got everyone out onto the street, and the staff members were not allowed to tell like the people why they were closing.
Really?
Yep.
That's
According
impressive.
to this article of like a bunch of like cast members talking about what it was like being there on 9/11. Yeah.
That seems like a
Thanks, Bing and Huffington Post.
That seems like an incredible feat in and of itself.
Right? It
Because
is
they must have had to do that in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, it's like who made that
And-
call? Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
And not being able to tell anybody about it, like what was going on, that is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So grad night,
Yeah.
right? My sister is 7 years older than me, so like for years and years I heard she went to grad night at Magic Kingdom and had like an awesome time. Like all these great stories, like, oh, the park's all dark and you're the only ones there, and it's like fantastic. So I was like looking forward to this for years. The week of my grad night, I got super sick, like this horrible like upper respiratory infection.
Ugh.
Yeah. So I was just like, my ears were blocked up and I was stuffy and I was coughing. This is also a gross story, by the way. So also, they put us in MGM instead of Magic Kingdom, which is like,
Why?
I know I just said that I like MGM, but it is like when you're 18 and like with all your friends, it was like we went on the Great Movie Ride and it was like, woo, we're graduating. Let's go to the
especially when
Great
you're
Movie
expecting to
Ride.
go to
Yeah.
Magic Kingdom.
1
And,
mile
like-
an hour car.
Yeah, and like, so what was there to go on? There was the Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror were like the only two things
Yeah.
that had any real appeal. And then there's like so many people. And
Yeah.
again, like growing up in Florida, and I've been to Disney World a million times, it was like, I've never seen like this many people here.
Yeah.
And so every line was like 3 hours long. So we waited possibly 4 hours long actually for Tower of Terror. And like, I was also I'm going to say fifth wheel. I think I was with like my two friends who were like with their boyfriends. So we were like waiting in a 4 hour line as they just made out with their boyfriends, and I was incredibly sick, and like every like 2 minutes being like and like spitting into the plants along the way as you were waiting. Like it's an outdoor line, so they have all these like planters.
Did they think you were trying to stop them, or were you actually being
No,
sick?
it was like genuinely I was like about to pass out. It was the worst time. And then like I think the only other thing was going on, I don't think they had a foam party, but they did have like a big stage set up in like the center with like a concert going on, and it was like no one you'd ever heard of. And that
Yeah.
was just like an 8 billion person mosh pit with like a bunch of sweaty teenagers
Ugh.
like and deafening bad music.
I
So it was not great.
All right, graduates, welcome. One of the guys from Baja Men.
Right as I was taking a drink. Right as I was
I
taking a
think
drink.
when I was a senior, we had the option to do grad bash, which was at Universal. Either way, I said no fucking way am I doing that. So
I was
whatever.
just like, I was so excited for it, and it was such a letdown.
Yeah, that's why I didn't like. I've heard horror stories. I'm like, I'm not gonna waste money to go do that when I know something will probably go wrong. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Do you guys want to move on to our next
I have
sort of
another
Disney topic?
I have one other park experience.
Okay, go for it.
I want to end this part on a high note.
Okay.
So
That's probably good. We started high and then went super low.
yeah,
bring
so
us
let's
back up.
kind of bring it back. So it was a couple months after my fiance and I had started dating. Shut up. Anyway, so
Sorry, Vanessa.
we anyway, we were like, it was like I said, a couple months. So it was her birthday in June, and they had Star Wars. This was still with like right before they canceled Star Wars weekends. Like I think right after they started it, like or right before they were going to start integrating Star Wars on like a serious level, and they're
Right
like,
after this, I'll hit episode 2 panned out. They're like,
anyway, they're like,
Action.
well, we're going to start incorporating Star Wars heavily into the park. We can't justify Star Wars weekends anymore. So it was like right before that. And I saw Billy D. Williams was going to be there as one of the guests. I'm like, I would fucking love to see Billy D. Williams. And so on her birthday, we went, stayed overnight, woke up at 4 in the fucking morning,
Good.
drove to Hollywood Studios, waited in line for 3 hours to get the autograph tickets to go and meet him. Almost didn't meet him. They had a very specific, like a very set number. We were...
They're like, we can only allow one of you, and you just shove Vanessa out of the way.
We were 3 and 4 in the standby line.
Oh, yeah?
Like, they ran out of the guaranteed tickets. They
Yeah.
did 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they said, okay, this is when we have the first signing. If you want your standby, you can go to that. If there's extra time, we'll call in the number order. And so we made a beeline. We're like, okay, we get in the park. We'll grab something to eat because at this time the park was open at like 6 or like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
We'd been standing in line for like 3 hours. So we got coffee, we got breakfast, we went right to the signing. And like, I guess they had brought in the first batch of people and they're like, okay, we're going to start doing standby ticket holder 1 and 2. Nobody. They call 3 and 4. We're like, yes! And there's like this crowd of people waiting there. Like they must have been in the second batch of signature times. And I'm like, yes! Walking past them, I wanted to be like, yeah, fuck you all, you plebs.
I'm sure that's exactly what Vanessa wanted to do on her birthday.
I feel like she would have been.
I was so grateful, and I still am so grateful to her for it. Because like I said, we had only been dating for a couple months.
That better be in your vows.
Yeah. We had only been dating for a couple months. It was
Richer for poorer through Star Wars weekends.
It was only a couple months after we had started dating. It was on her birthday. Like I said, we had gone the night before and stayed at her sister's house, that was the first time I was meeting her sister in Orlando. And I'm like, that was like one of the moments that I knew. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to marry this woman because she does stupid shit like this for me. And it was awesome. Billy D. Williams was so cool.
Cool.
It's a really uplifting story.
I feel
Let's
like
bring it back down.
like very small note. I feel like every truly great Disney story starts with, so I woke up at 4 a.m. and includes, and then we waited in line for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really
Makes
has
sense.
to.
All right, so move on to our next segment. We've talked about rides that are there that we enjoy. Are there any rides that used to be there that you'd want to bring back, or maybe even a ride that you wish they would build at any of the parks?
Mentioned this earlier. The goddamn animation studio tour at MGM Hollywood Studios. I cannot remember it on the first try.
It'll be the first
It
one. Just
used to be-
rename it MGM again.
Yeah.
Where was it? Was it to the right of the Great Movie Ride?
Yeah.
Yeah, to the right, near the back.
I think that's where they put the Star Wars launch bay.
Possibly. There's still a studio tour there. It used to be, it's like you sit and you watch a little movie and then you walk through it. And
Then
the movie,
yes, that's exactly where they put the Star Wars launch bay.
Okay.
Because they have a whole bunch of like new Star Wars production stuff in there.
Okay, yeah.
And at the end is like this Star Wars shop with like really
Oh, the Sandcrawler?
Oh, yeah.
with like really high end collectibles. It is
that's
fucking
cool.
Great.
it is awesome.
Well, so it used to be the video part. It was Robin Williams and like Genie doing part of it, and it like walked you through the entire animation process, and it was like. It was great. It was Robin Williams, so it
That's
was
pretty
great.
cool.
And then you walk through, and it was like where they had actual animation going on, so you could see animators like sketching and working.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah,
I never
so it was
saw that.
It was a very cool experience. And then they replaced it. They made the video part Mushu with like Eddie Murphy instead. Not as funny as Robin Williams.
I did see that then. I did
Yeah.
see the Mushu part.
And then they just sort of like
Sorry.
covered up all the. It was like you walked along a walkway and there were windows and you were like looking down into the studio. They just like covered up all those windows because they're like, yeah, we don't really do that here anymore.
Yeah, they do it all in
Like-
California.
Yeah, there's no one like actually drawing animation
Yeah.
cells here. Sorry. So it was like, all right. So I guess I just watched a
Yeah.
video with Mushu in it. Like,
Then yeah, I definitely
cool.
saw that. And I definitely saw the Mushu version, and then it's definitely where they put the Star Wars stuff.
yeah, it's like it was just like a very like. I mean, I'm glad that they replaced the newer version because the newer version was terrible. But I mean, I would like the old one back.
They used to have the behind the scenes Hollywood studio tour too. It was similar, where they took in that like trolley, and you had to go through like the costume and design department, and you could see people like working on the costumes for the parks and like the
Yeah.
props and everything. That's the same thing at Hollywood studio.
Was it like, did it take you outside for part of it? And there
Yeah.
were like big set pieces? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because one of the set pieces it had was one of the helicopter from Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. And I asked the guy, I'm like, can I jump out of this thing and go take a picture of that? And he goes, no. And then the other thing was a spaceship from Flight of the Navigator. And I'm like, can I get out of the ride and take a picture of that? And he goes, no.
I remember that was one of the things I feel like we were talking about earlier, that was like, oh, and here's this prop from this movie. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like the what from what movie?
Was that on the back lot? That's no longer there?
Yep.
Because that's where they're building Star Wars?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm okay with it.
Every
Yeah.
time we go to Hollywood Studios, I try to look over the wall.
That's I
It's
feel like
just
I just want to
piles
go
of
up to the wall
dirt.
and you're like,
Yeah,
I wish every memory from my childhood was trampled and replaced with Star Wars.
I put my hand on the wall and like my head on it, like
yeah,
soon.
like, I can,
It'll be here soon.
I can sense this.
I can
What's happening?
feel the Millennium Falcon.
Do you remember, like, I feel like it must have been very briefly. I, again, haven't been back to Hollywood Studios, got it right that time, in a while. There was a Chronicles of Narnia thing.
Gone.
Yeah, I feel like it was. I feel like it was erected just like this is going to be a
They had
temporary
like a bunch
thing.
of costumes and everything, right?
Yeah, they
I
had a bunch of
remember that, yeah.
costumes. They had like a room that was like all snowy with the witch, and I
That I
just
don't
like
remember. I
just
remember the
had a
costumes.
memory
I
of
don't
it,
remember
and
that.
I
like
have no
I
idea
feel
what
like it
that
was
is.
like between like the first and second Chronicles of Narnia movies.
They
like,
had a
kinda-
history of film room for a while. It had a bunch of costumes from a bunch of different movies. And I thought it was really weird because one of their points in history in the movies was Birth of a Nation. And they're like, one of the most important films in like cinematic history. I'm like,
Maybe
It's upsetting.
because I know they recycled the stuff that was in that entry room for the Great Movie Ride. Maybe that's where they recycled it from. Because I remember for the longest time they had the carousel horse from Mary Poppins in there,
Yeah.
and then we went the most recent time it was just a whole bunch of clothing. I was like, "Fuck, put the horse back." I
I
want to see
remember
this shit.
in the very front of the park, there's a gift shop. Like you walk in
Yep.
and go left, and there's a gift shop right there. And the prop they have in there is the striped jacket that Dick Van Dyke wears from Mary Poppins.
Oh, yeah?
Like here's a tiny little man. Like that is a tiny little jacket. You
That is-
you could like
that is
pick
a-
up Dick Van Dyke and put him in your pocket. It'd
That
be
is
great.
a tiny dick.
Yeah.
Come on, one of us had to make the
That was-
joke. One of us had
pretty
to
good.
make the joke.
I feel like
okay?
that's a lot of like movie props and costumes is just like seeing it in real life and being like, oh, I thought it would be bigger.
Because-
Like a lot of things that you see for the first time in your life.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kyle, ride, or if you had
There's
another
like
point.
because remember like they have another store at Hollywood Studios that has like the one of the Power Ranger helmets from the Power Rangers movie.
It's the full suit.
It's full
the
suit.
Pink
The Pink
Ranger.
Ranger.
It looks like garbage.
Yeah, and they have like I think one of like a
Sexist.
Terminator costume too.
Yeah. No, it looks like they took hockey pads, sprayed it pink, and they didn't do anything to try to preserve it because the paint is like flaking off in the worst
That's
way.
right.
I haven't seen this.
I don't have any rides that I wish I'd bring back, but I had an idea for a new ride.
Okay.
I feel like Disney has kind of moved away from all their classic stuff, and of course they're trying to bring like new people into the park.
Yeah.
And the stuff that kids have now, like Moana and Frozen and Tangled, they're trying to appeal to that generation. But I think they need to kind of like go back into their history. And Disney had a movie that was planned for 2002. It was called The Search for Mickey Mouse. And it was in production in 2002, and then it was supposed to come out in like 2010 and be their 50th animated film. And the plot was Mickey Mouse is kidnapped,
Sure.
and like Minnie, Goofy, and Donald Duck get together to find him, and they go all around the world. And it was to have cameos by every single main character of a Disney film up to that point.
Huh. That's pretty
And they
cool.
would have met all these characters.
Yeah.
And obviously the movie never happened.
That would be awesome. They could still
But I
make
think that would be a cool ride, like even like a dark ride experience, like like the Search for Mickey Mouse,
Yeah.
like just going through all these different scenes and all these different settings, and have tons of different characters in there. Like you don't even have to make like it a long ride. If it was as long as like the old Snow White ride,
could've
I think
just
that's
put-
like the Winnie the Pooh ride.
Or even if they
Yeah.
just put it where the Great Movie Ride was.
Yeah, and you're
do
just
it
going
there.
through different scenes and being like, oh, there's like the guy from Great Mouse Detective. Oh, there's like 100 Dalmatians. There's the Rescuers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that'd be
There's
cool to
Iron
see.
Man
Like
or-
I feel there's so much history that Disney has with their classic animated films.
Yeah.
And they've moved like really far beyond it.
Yeah.
I know like they have the minecart ride now at Snow White. They built like a Little Mermaid ride semi recently.
Which is actually pretty neat.
Which is neat. Like I think the line for it's almost like better
pretty
than
cool.
the ride itself.
Yeah.
Although the Ursula animatronic's really cool.
The animatronics on that ride are really cool.
Ariel's weird.
Yeah, in some spots because she's in multiple places.
Yeah,
In some
but like
she looks
there's
good,
like
and
where
some
she's
she
like
looks really
floating
weird.
in midair and her hair is like supposed to look like it's floating in water.
Yeah,
It's
but it's
just
like
kinda,
one
rocking
piece.
back and forth.
But she just looks like the one chick from Evil Dead when she gets possessed and she's like floating in the air. It's really weird. But
Anyway.
no, I didn't like that'd be a cool ride or something to acknowledge like all of Disney's
Yeah.
past would be neat. Was that where Great Movie Ride was? They're now putting a Mickey Mouse ride in.
Yeah.
But even that's like a newer Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
But I want to see something that incorporates a lot of the classic Disney things.
That'd be cool.
Even if they had something that incorporated like classic Disney TV, like a DuckTales ride would be really cool.
Yeah.
They might
Yeah.
do that now.
And there's a
that
new
it's coming
DuckTales,
back.
and it's apparently like really good.
It was.
So I'd like to see that.
I, with the building of this Star Wars land, I'm a big fan of like the space battles in Star Wars. So I'd like to see maybe not so much a ride, but like an arcade section kind of thing, where like you can do like flight simulators or like dog fights. Like
Yeah.
you do have like two separate teams, and like you can climb into like the cockpit of an X-wing or like a TIE fighter, and it's like a simulator, and you can like fly around and like.
It would all
It would
look
be
like
so
that, like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2,
That's
the
exactly what I was
Sovereign.
thinking
That's
It would
what
look
I was
just
thinking.
like that.
I am
yeah.
totally okay with that. That would be
I think
so
that would be
awesome.
Fun. Yeah, have you been on the Toy Story ride at Magic Kingdom where they take you along? It's like a shooter. It's kind of
Yeah,
like the Buzz Lightyear
yeah.
one, but yeah, they take you in front of screens. That would be cool too. You're just like
Yeah.
going
That's
from
at
ride to ride
Hollywood
trying to.
Studios.
No, there's two of them.
There's the Buzz Lightyear one at Disney.
The Buzz Lightyear one is in Tomorrowland at Magic Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
The Toy Story Mania is at the one at Hollywood Studios.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm saying
There's
there's
a-
two.
There's a Toy Story one also in Magic Kingdom, is there not?
Yeah, that's
The
the
Buzz
Buzz
Lightyear.
Lightyear one.
No,
with the-
there's also I know there's the Buzz Lightyear one. I thought there was Buzz Lightyear and Toy Story one in Magic Kingdom, and then
No.
second Toy Story one.
No, there's Buzz Lightyear, which
Okay.
is with the laser guns.
Yeah.
And then Toy Story Mania is the one where you pull the string and they hit the 3D screens.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But
That's
yeah,
one that
I
took,
didn't
like
remember
5.5
being
hours
at
to get
Hollywood
on.
Studios.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like something like that, like something like arcade style, where you can like actually climb into like a cockpit and like grab a control, like grab the stick and like fly around, like because they used to do arcade, like big arcade cabinets like that back in the day, like where you grab the stick and you fly around like an X-wing. You got to shoot down TIE fighters, but like it'd be cool to like have like 2 rows of like 20 cockpits and like people just climb in and go head to head. That'd be so cool.
Can you imagine trying to organize like 40 people that don't know each other and they're on vacation to do anything that resembled teamwork?
I mean, you wouldn't even have to. You just fly around
No.
and just blast
Just
people.
teamwork.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Great. Do you remember like the Mission to Mars ride? Mm-hmm. Like that death trap?
Great.
Is that
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I went on it after they released it, before they like fixed it so people wouldn't get sick.
Is that the one with Gary
It's
Sinise?
fantastic.
Yeah.
I fucking hate that ride. Even on the low gravity one, I get like nauseous.
I remember
Well, you're a little bitch.
I went
Great
on
ride.
Hey,
I,
fuck off.
I went on that ride like right after those 2 people died, and they introduced like the safe version for losers.
And Mike.
Yeah, and Mike.
Look, I like roller coasters.
We'll,
I don't know what
we'll
it is.
just call it the Mike version of the
I don't
ride,
know what it
okay?
is about that ride. Like, I don't have any problems with like roller coasters or motion sickness or anything like that.
Yeah.
But that fucking ride, I don't know what it is.
That
It
was
just
also I
gets
went
to
on
me.
it. I went on it with my sister, and she like doesn't have a problem with rides like that. But like, spinning rides, as I've said, and she like came off it like.
I don't know what it is about that ride that just fucks with
I
me.
love
The
it. It's
line
fantastic.
for that ride, like you go to the first and they're like, all right, well, if you want to get off, here's what's going to happen. So you exit here, and then like, all right, then you go to another section. All right, well, here's your second chance to leave this ride because these things, and like, there's like red flashing lights.
Yeah, because they
And I
know.
remember
Like,
when I
you
went-
can't say we didn't warn
Yeah,
you.
when I went on, there was like this like 8-year-old kid in front of me that was getting more and more panicked as like the lights got more intense, and I got to the final and just started crying. And Dad's like, "All right, I guess we'll go on the other one, the kiddie one." I'm like, "Yeah, maybe you should." Like your kid's been like shitting his
He's
pants the
having,
last
like, a
5
mental
minutes.
Well, I mean,
breakdown.
even on they have the orange, which is the more extreme, and they have the green, which is the less extreme. Even on the green one, they have those flashing lights, and they give you those options to get off. I'm like, what?
I just remember being on that ride with like 2 strangers because my family didn't want to go with me, and you're supposed to be like, "Oh, co-pilot, like hit the button now."
And there was nobody there.
And there's like there's no one there. Like there's a guy there that is like is totally out of it. Like, hey buddy, can you like hit that? No, okay, cool.
We're gonna die. Hit the button. If you don't put the landing gear down, we're
Man,
gonna crash.
If you're trying to put people at ease before a ride, like why get Gary Sinise?
that guy, nothing goes good when he's around. It's a bad choice.
It's like, hey everyone, I'm Gary Sinise. You might recognize me as a rapist or a murderer, maybe a child molester from some of your favorite films.
Remember that disaster movie I was
Is that
in?
ride
This will
still
be
open,
great.
or did they close it?
No, it's still open. Mission Space.
Okay, yeah.
It's that still open at? Is it MGM Hollywood
It's
Studios or is it Epcot? It's Epcot. Yeah.
It's Epcot.
Yeah.
You know
I
what?
don't know, I thought the Toy Story
just
one was
remembered
like
he was
Magic
Lieutenant Dan, and I give him a pass now.
Really?
I take it back.
What
yeah.
about Apollo
Yeah.
13 or like Mission to Mars where all
Nah.
that shit went wrong?
Nah.
Things went great for him as Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah. Real great.
Anyway.
He got new legs.
My next one is another one. I feel like I'm going to come off really like as a curmudgeonly like old person. Like they should put everything back to how it was when I was a kid.
Are you just giving this warning on episode 10?
I'm just only realizing it.
Careful there.
Can we edit this out and put it in all the episodes?
Yeah, just
Anyway,
like
go on.
my
Right
lead
after the social
into
media
every
tag.
episode is there's this awful show ride thing at Magic Kingdom, the Tiki Room.
Yeah.
It's one I developed. That and the Carousel of Progress, I developed a sort of Stockholm syndrome around where they were bad and I hated them as a kid, and then I like grew to love them because they were so terrible. I looked it up, and they redid Tiki Room in 1998. I would have sworn it was later than that. I would have sworn it was like early 2000s. But they redid, it was just like it was an Adventureland, and it was like a general, I don't know how to describe it. It was just like a fun little show. It's like there are all these singing birds, like animatronic birds, and it was just like a little thing that you sat and watched. They redid it so that it had Zazu and Iago in it, and it was like a sort of like a competition between the two of them, and they like changed all the songs that were in it, and I think they took out, I might be wrong, I feel like they took out the song that was like in the Tiki Room, the like reason that it's called that, yeah, and so it was very like, and it felt very not timely at all. It's like, oh, we're going to update this. We're going to put in Zazu and Iago from 1992 and 1994.
I
Like,
mean, I guess it makes more sense. They're more recognizable than just some random birds.
well, yeah, I feel like they just wanted to have some kind of recognizable characters, and we're like, who are two birds? Okay,
Disney's really
throw them
lacking in the talking bird department lately.
Yeah,
It's
that's
true.
my major criticism for Disney.
I mean, they had that chicken in Moana, but it didn't really talk. Just kind of.
I would love if they redid Tiki Room and it was just Alan Tudyk as the chicken from Moana.
What if it wasn't even like an animated chicken? It was just Alan Tudyk.
Yeah. It's
Just, like, sitting on
like mocap of his face.
Sitting on a tree. Sitting on
Aren't
a,
you Wash?
sitting on a tree branch. Coconut on his head.
I would love that. I was going to say put it back to the old Tiki Room, and that's what I want now. More than anything.
It'd be great.
Yeah, so that was just an update I could never really get behind. And I'm like, put it back or put something better there.
Yeah.
Like, don't do this half-ass, like, we're going to update it, but it's not really that updated. And, like, we're going to change it, but, like, we aren't really adding anything good. It's just different.
Yeah.
That's all
Do
I
you
have
have
to
any
say.
more? It would be cool to kind of see, like, have you guys been on the Transformers ride at Universal?
No.
Yeah, you mean the Spider-Man ride at Universal?
No. Well, I mean,
Is it the same
the
as the Islands of Adventure?
It's the exact same thing.
It's-
just with
Well, that's
Transformers,
an
over it.
awesome ride, so, I mean, I'm fine with that.
It's like a step above the Spider-Man one because like it's like intense.
You're a
Like
step above
it's
the
like this
Spider-Man
huge building and the whole building is the ride.
Oh, yeah.
But like I'd like to see something with that level of like depth and intensity with like the Marvel characters, like because there were some practical effects on that, right? Kind of.
There's like smoke effects and stuff like that.
But like it's like one of those 3D screen rides where you sit in the car and you move around, but it's like it's pretty immersive. Like I'd like to see something like that with the Marvel characters at Disney. Cuz like I feel like that's really the only way they can do some Marvel rides.
Yeah.
Like they'd have to be like that 3D
An
kind of
Avengers ride in that style would be fun.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, they're saving the city, and you're just sort of like going through as they're trying to save the city.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Hulk comes in.
They
there's
have
lightning.
an Iron Man ride. Oh, is it Disneyland? Is it the one in China?
Do they?
Yeah, there's an Iron Man ride like that
Hmm.
at one of the Disney parks overseas.
I think I
that we
remember
don't have.
hearing about it, but I've never seen it or seen
It's like a
anything
Stark
about it.
Expo like attack, and like Iron Man
That's
flies
pretty
around.
neat.
Yeah, they can either do that or just like put a roller coaster in and call it like Captain America or something.
Well, yeah.
Call the
obviously.
Hawkeye roller
I
coaster.
mean, like the Hulk one
The
in Islands of
Arrow.
Adventure. It's like, oh, it's green, so it's the Hulk ride. It's like, okay.
Well, that ride, the lead up to the actual roller coaster is all themed. Like they have like it's designed like a science lab and like this.
Yeah, but
they
I mean,
redid
it's
all
still
of
just
that.
like,
Yeah.
They
It's a
tore all that
roller
out and redid it.
Did they?
Oh, did they?
When?
Recently, yeah. Oh, that's a whole new like Q experience.
Well, because they're probably getting ready to rebrand that once the contract runs out and they can't use Marvel shit
It's
anymore.
Hong Kong Disneyland that has the Iron Man ride.
Although they might get to
Apparently.
keep that because
I wanna
Hulk
go to
is
Hong Kong.
Universal.
Yeah, yes.
They'll just have to
How dumb that'd
redo,
be. They rebrand everything else except the Hulk.
get rid of Marvel Island, just leave the Hulk roller coaster there.
Hmm.
But what else are they going to do with that Hulk car from Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift? That's been sitting in front of the Hulk roller coaster for 15 years.
Yeah, that must draw on so
Universal broke my fucking heart when they took Jaws out to put more goddamn Harry Potter there.
Yeah, I mean, the Jaws
Well,
ride was
you're
cool,
very-
but like, how many times?
You stop there. The Jaws ride is cool.
I feel like Universal, definitely Disney, to get back to our topic, but also Universal are guilty of that, like, sort of like, I don't know what to call it, like kitty washing things, or like, oh, we have
Yeah.
this like crazy intense ride, but like kids aren't gonna go on that, so let's make it the Lilo and Stitch adventure. That's my next one. The alien encounter
That thing's
was
great.
like a great like scary ride, and they replaced it. It just didn't make sense. It was like sort of putting a Lilo and Stitch texture over like a scary ride. But you're like, well, I'm not scared of Stitch. And they change like roaring and spitting acid to him like burping, and it
and,
smells
like,
like
chili
tacos.
dogs,
Yeah. So it's like,
Well, it has that thing like
why?
you were talking about with the Bugs Life one, where like the seats move and it
Well,
sounds
like,
like,
like
it's
jumps
breathing
on your
behind-
shoulders
Well,
and
yeah,
everything.
the alien was like, okay, there's this massive alien. It's like, oh, it's walking around the theater now, and you can feel it like pressing down on the seat behind you,
Yeah.
or like the what do
The-
they call that?
the
The little
bar, the
holstery,
lap bar.
yeah, thing over you. But yeah, with Stitch, it's like, oh no, he's walking around. Okay, well, I saw the movie. He's pretty friendly, so
Well,
cool.
Shit, Captain, he's adorable.
It's more like the panic is more like, oh, can I pet him? Can I pet him?
he's friendly to
Captain, he's waving at me.
he's friendly to 8-year-old Hawaiian
He
girls.
got the chili dogs.
Oh, he's bouncing a ball.
Yeah, so that, and I think they're closing that down or doing
Yeah,
something
they're making
with
it
it now.
seasonal. I think,
Oh.
or they did make it.
And
They
Yeah.
made it seasonal.
It,
yeah.
it's very just like, all right, well, yeah, there's potential there, and it was a good ride before, and I don't necessarily want to see it go back because it wasn't themed around anything. It was just like a weird
random
alien.
alien.
Yeah, I
Well,
learned
it's
this
like we were-
yesterday. I totally remembered it as a xenomorph, and they were like, no, of course it wasn't. a
There's
xenomorph.
no fucking way
Yeah,
they do that. Are you
I
kidding
looked
me?
it up and it wasn't. In my memory, it absolutely was.
Yeah.
But no, it was like a big scary monster. But it was like, okay, well, why? Because it's Tomorrowland. And so now it is like, okay, make
Future aliens.
it, make
adventure.
it something. But
Well, if it was
else.
tomorrow, you might get killed by a giant monster.
yeah,
Yeah.
If
all
as
those
well-
broken
if-
promises that Disney gave me as a kid,
I know. Michael Eisner, you piece of shit.
and that's why he's a piece of shit.
He's really disgracing Walt Disney's frozen head.
And spider body.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they should remake the Alien. Right? Like, oh, the alien killed. Wait, it only killed the Jewish members of the audience.
And the children. He's eating the children.
Yeah, all you Goyim are safe, I guess. Get your purses and walk at the exit.
It's like, oh my god, the forever machine that powers Walt Disney's frozen head has finally been repowered. Man, that'd be a cool statue from the middle of the park.
Just a head on a stand.
There's Walt Disney on a pile of corpses.
You know what they should they should do like in Futurama, just have like his head in a jar.
That's what I was saying. Kyle had to go with the pile of corpses.
I like the head in the jar.
In the souvenir shop, it could be like a snow globe with just Walt Disney's severed head. You shake it around, and little dollar signs float all over the place.
Anyway.
All right, Banksy.
All right, everyone, we're going to end our anniversary 10th episode with a brand new segment that we're going to call Erin Hates the 80s.
I do.
It's horrible.
This should be fun. This should be fun.
I feel like I should
And by fun I mean a nightmare.
provide like a little context.
Yeah, go for it.
I hate the 80s.
No.
This is like a point of contention in our friendships and my friendships with basically everyone, because everyone just sucks the dick of the 80s so hard. Like everything from the 80s is goddamn
Dude, you
wonderful.
like wham rap.
I do, I do like wham rap. And that started to annoy you about something else I hated from the 80s.
Like-
That's going to be a later segment. But like just a lot of the like aesthetic and the fashion. A lot of things from the 80s I just
You like
despise.
wham. The fashion. Give me, come on.
Yeah. I like well, we'll talk about that later. Like I send you pictures of Wham pretty much constantly, Kyle. I don't think there's been any of those that I would say either of them looked good in.
I own every outfit in all those pictures.
Including the leather jacket with no shirt.
Yeah. To be fair, most of those pictures are just two guys in bicycle shorts. So,
Yeah.
It's easy to replicate.
yeah, that's my current
So
style.
anyway, tonight on Erin Hates the 80s, a true classic that everyone fucking loves, and I don't know why. The Breakfast Club. Terrible movie.
What is wrong with you?
Terrible movie. I genuinely don't know what people like about it. There is no relatable character in that film. Like, I feel like the point
Apparently,
is
your dad never gave you a pack of smokes for Christmas. Right?
your steel industry working dad gave you smokes for Christmas. Like, I feel like the point of the movie is supposed to be like, oh, we're all stereotypes, but we're not. We're all the same. But, like, they go from being one-dimensional stereotypes to two-dimensional stereotypes, and the second dimension is everyone hates their parents, which, like, all right, is that really enough to bring us together? Like, the both of the girls end up with guys that, like, don't really make sense. It's like, oh, well, like, I don't like my parents, so I'm going to date this bad guy. Not that that doesn't happen, but it's stupid. And then, like, oh, well, like, I'm a weirdo, but now we sort of relate, so, like, you're a jock and I'm going to go out with you. Also, I got a makeover, so, like, now I'm okay to date a jock. Like, who the fuck cares? Also, I hate that stupid repetitive song.
Which
like
one?
him. I don't like that song. Oh, you know, every song made in the 80s. Don't you forget about me. I hate that song. It's so obnoxious. It's so obnoxious. And just like, what's the story of that movie? It's like we're in detention and we talk and there's like no enjoyable dialogue and then it comes out and we're friends, but like we probably won't be friends on Monday. So why did I just waste my goddamn time watching the movie? What's the point? Who cares? Fuck you, John Hughes. Anyway, that's been Erin Hates the 80s. Counterpoint, anyone?
Erin,
Yes?
will you walk on by?
Can you tell me
Come on.
something?
Call my name.
Can you tell me something good?
Will
about
you call
that
my
movie?
name?
Can you? I'm gonna turn to Mike now. Can you tell me something
I say.
Yeah.
good about?
La 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 la.
Did you
La la
spend
la la.
the entire time I was talking
La la.
looking up the lyrics to that song?
I did. You roll tape on this next one. I listen to you. I just disagree with everything you say
Well,
fundamentally.
I mean that's sort of the point of the segment is that it's like I have all these really unpopular opinions and
Yep.
just a lot of them are centered around the
I mean,
80s.
Emilio Estevez, a leotard. How can you not like?
Did you know? I found this out. I was like looking up on Wikipedia last night. Did you know? I can't think of who the second one was. Nicolas Cage was first choice to play Bender, and someone else great was the second choice, and I can't remember who.
Was
I
it
would have.
Kiefer Sutherland?
No, it was not Kiefer Sutherland. That piece of shit.
What are you talking about?
I'm sorry. You just seriously wrinkled my brain.
Yeah.
What?
That was a step too
Kiefer
far.
Sutherland's the one I hate because of that movie with Jon Snow, right?
What?
I don't seriously hate him. I only joke hate him.
What are you talking about?
Kiefer Sutherland is the one who's always trying to make you do an underhanded business deal so that he can marry your daughter, and then Vesuvius erupts.
What?
Oh yeah.
Are you talking about Pompeii?
Yeah.
That shitty movie that
Yeah.
nobody watched?
Yeah, I had to watch it for
Are
work.
you talking about Pompeii? A phrase no one has said.
Unless
Ever.
they were talking about actual Pompeii. No,
Yeah.
I joke hate Kiefer Sutherland, but not really, because I watched that movie and he's the villain in that movie, and he spends the entire time like doing all these sketchy, really specific things, and I was just like, Kyle, don't you hate it when you're like having a business meeting to celebrate your next new venture, and then the guy that was going to fund all of your enterprise comes in and is like, look, if you don't let me sleep with your daughter, the deal's off. And he's like, I hate that. It happens to me every day. So I hate Kiefer Sutherland now.
Sidebar, Kyle, Kiefer Sutherland, better bad guy or good guy?
Ooh. Bad guy.
You think?
Yeah, David and the Lost Boys. He was great. It's a good vampire.
Yeah, but that's just one movie.
Yeah, but it's so good.
Yeah, that's true. He was also a pretty good bad guy in A Few Good Men.
Oh yeah. He was
Yeah.
there. I forgot
Fucking
about that.
movie
Kiefer
is
Sutherland
great.
is like kind of like a non-entity to me. I don't like.
Kyle.
Anyway,
He's not actually terrible, though I give him shit, but he's not like great either.
But he
back to
definitely,
Breakfast Club though. Do you feel?
Yes.
I feel like this could be like my argument with most of the things that you say you hate from the '80s. I feel like Breakfast Club was kind of like, it's like quintessential like high school movie.
John Cusack was the other choice for Bender.
that'd been great.
Right? I was like, this
Ben-
is something Kyle's gonna agree with.
Bender? Is that the
In
character?
Breakfast Club.
John Bender, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
like bad boy one.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it's been a while since
Smoke
I've
him up, Johnny. That guy.
It's been a while since I've seen the movie.
I really know that one line from the film.
Anyway, you were saying, sorry.
No, I feel like a lot of 80s films, it's like, especially if you didn't like grow up like watching them. Like, I grew up like watching all these movies and like watched stuff that came after it. If you watch like everything that's come after Breakfast Club, and Breakfast Club kind of like set the standard for like a certain like genre film, and you're like, yeah, that's boring and there's nothing new about that and all these things. It's like, yeah, because it's been done to death, but that was like the first one.
Yeah, it was new
I
at the time.
agree with that as a concept. I don't agree with that for Breakfast Club. There aren't things in there that I'm like, oh, but someone's done it better. I'm like, there's nothing in there that appeals to me. It's not even like, oh, this could be improved. It's like, oh man, you know what really like gets a girl going, makes her want to date a guy is when like she's enjoying herself with friends and he starts sarcastically slow clapping her like a douchebag. Like,
Erin, it's
Yes?
a different time. They didn't have smartphones. Okay? If they had smartphones, that movie would not have happened. It would have just been 5 kids sitting in detention on Facebook the whole time.
that would have been a better movie.
Probably.
Like, I would enjoy that movie more not seeing any of their screens, just them, like, staring down at their phones under the table texting the whole time. I hate this movie. I hate it.
I just can't abide. I had Ali Sheedy and Molly Ringwald.
Emilio Estevez. Emilio!
You have a really unhealthy fascination.
Listen, I grew up on Mighty Ducks, okay? He'll always be Coach Bombay.
That's fair. He was good.
Oh, Gordon.
See, that's okay. That's another example of like the first part of what you're talking about is like, oh, if you didn't grow up with these movies, like there are things that I grew up with, like Mighty Ducks, that I'm like, objectively, probably not a good movie, but I really
shut the fuck up.
I
Mighty
really
Ducks is
enjoy
great.
it. It's fantastic
Mighty Ducks is
because
great.
I grew up with
You're
it.
wrong.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
When's the first time you saw Breakfast Club?
Probably like when I was in high school.
That's what it should have applied to you the most.
Who is my point of access in that
She's
film?
like, look at all
Who
these
am I
people
supposed
with
to relate
friends. Who do I relate to here?
Exactly. Well, it's like, okay, there's like the weirdo who's just a weird, like, she doesn't have any reason. She's
Ali
just,
Sheedy?
Sure, she's just weird because she's weird.
Yeah, she's a hot goth chick.
Sure. But she's not really a goth. Like, she's not full
Well, she's
goth.
just like weird,
She's a
disaffected.
proto-goth.
Pseudo-goth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like didn't relate to her why she was doing anything. I feel like she would be the one that I would relate to, but like there wasn't anything there for me to access. And then like, okay, I wasn't like a pretty popular girl who felt pressured by her friends. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't like shut the fuck up. I wasn't like a bad boy who got a pack of smokes for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was a nerd, but I wasn't that kind of nerd. I wasn't like oh, my parents put all this pressure on me, so I'm gonna kill myself. Like, I just wanted to kill myself because I hated my life. Like, where's that character?
Yay.
I think
This is what you dug up, Kyle. This is what you wanted to know.
I think you don't get to that character until Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
Did you really relate to Cameron? I feel that was
I also don't really care for Ferris Bueller.
All right, now.
All right, guys. That was the first and final installment of Erin Hates the 80s.
No, I'm coming back for the Christmas episode. I have a doozy.
We were not
no.
joking when we said this was Erin's last episode. You will not be hearing from her
They were
again.
joking initially, but they aren't after that segment.
All right, everyone.
Not only will she not be on the podcast,
everyone
but
else who hates the Breakfast Club, I know there are probably dozens of you out there.
there are
Please,
a whole 2 of you.
please write in.
Thanks, everyone. I look forward to doing two more episodes.
It's
Let's go to another 10 episodes. It's so much later on in the evening.
oh, it's so late.
We
Good night,
need to
everybody.
Get the fuck out of here. Bye, everyone. Bye forever, Erin.
What's wrong with you?
Hey everyone, if you enjoy listening to the Sleepy Nerds podcast and want to hear more from us, you can follow us on Facebook at Sleepy Nerds Podcast, on Instagram and Twitter at Sleepy Nerds Pod, and you can also subscribe to us on YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes.